Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TechRaptor podcast. I'm Robert Scrappy, your features editor.
Andrew Otton, editor-in-chief.
Rutledge Doggett, site founder.
Andrew Stretch, Wampa editor.
Wampa editor, because we are live in this live service podcast.
That's
Right?
true.
Yeah.
Well, we're not live because
Where's the red light?
I mean, us recording are live because that's how you record.
We're live
But
to each other.
people listening to us, we're
Whoa,
live to each other.
I've never thought of it
We're
that way.
successfully live to each other.
That's how real life works. Yeah.
We are just all live.
We're pioneering the
That works.
concept. It's crazy. Every other podcast just records everyone's scripts separately, and then they
Right.
need the audio engineer to put it together.
hmm
You know, Scrappy had the great idea. Let's just all record at the same time as if we're having a real life conversation.
Whoa.
Well, let's not get too far. We are still scripted right now. We're just reading the scripts live to each other.
That's
We're
why
not having a
that's why we've been
conversation.
able to that's why we've been able to edit you out of the podcast for the past 2 weeks as well.
Yes, you edited me so far out that I was in another continent, which was wild. This week we are going to talk about some Final Fantasy music, and we're going to jump into talking about that Crash Team Rumble live service thing. Can't wait to chat about that. Only good things, only good vibes, positive thoughts on it. But first, let's talk about some pretty big news. The United Kingdom, their Competition and Markets Authority, originally, when they were looking at the Microsoft acquisition of Activision-Blizzard, thought that this might be harmful to some UK gamers, but now they have reversed course, and their current stance is that they do not believe this would lead toward a monopoly, because they believe more that Microsoft would not make something like Call of Duty exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem.
I'm
mean,
so
they
tired of
definitely
these
will
talking
someday.
points. Yeah, they definitely will. It's a business.
Someday. Yeah.
They definitely will.
10 years from now, when all the contracts expire.
I don't even think it'll be 10 years.
Mm. You think so, though? Because, I mean, they've had Microsoft, or not Microsoft, they've had Minecraft for, I don't think 10 years, but we're getting close to that, right?
Yeah.
It's probably been 10 years.
Minecraft's a
it?
game though that like you could play on your phone.
You can play Call of Duty on your phone.
Yeah, but I mean it's a different beast.
Mm.
Okay, the
terms
purchase
of
was in
IP. 2014,
so 9
Yeah.
years.
9 years. So, yeah, Minecraft has been a Microsoft product for 9 years,
Yeah.
and it's still on everything. And
Yeah.
continuously updated on everything. It's not like Xbox is the only way to play the newest updates for Minecraft. You can play.
Well, I think
There are also
Minecraft
some-
makes most of its money from like merch. Like it
Mm.
sells shit.
There are some
Mm-hmm.
Minecraft DLCs that are limited to other platforms that are not Microsoft as well. Like they
Mm.
had the Super Mario DLC that was only available on the Wii U version.
The best
Yeah.
Nintendo console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to remember, is Minecraft Legends and like Minecraft Dungeons, those are like not just Xbox either, right? Like I know Dungeons or
I think you're right. I was looking at
Dungeons
the
was
list of
Switch.
upcoming games earlier.
I don't
Yeah.
remember if
No, it's
Legends is
definitely on
coming
Switch
out.
and PC. Yeah, it's
Maybe
on
just-
PlayStation 4 as well.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that I think about it, Xbox consoles have sold so poorly, it's in their best interest to keep releasing other consoles
Mhm.
for stuff like
Oh,
yeah.
Minecraft.
Is-
Yeah,
is this
Minecraft
That's
like-
been
Legends
what
is-
they've been saying
everything.
for like a year at this point.
Yeah. So are we negging Microsoft now? Is that
I mean,
They would make more money bringing Xbox Games Pass to PlayStation consoles with Sony taking a cut than they would trying to sell consoles.
do you think Sony would do that?
Mm.
Sony is
I
too
don't know
They
about that.
wouldn't do
prestigious.
it, but
They
they
wouldn't-
think about it. Like
They
if
wouldn't let
took a
the
cut
public.
like Apple takes from Fortnite.
Mhm.
Think about the revenue that not only Sony would generate, but Microsoft would have a whole other platform to pull gamers from.
I mean, that's why
Yeah.
they're
That's
trying to get
crazy
into the
talk.
TV app market. Like
Yeah.
Samsung TVs have Game
Mhm.
Pass.
Right.
Sync a Bluetooth controller to your TV, and
Yep.
it's as if you have the Xbox.
But do you really think Sony would let something so down
No.
market, so plebeian, like Xbox James Pass onto their
no.
onto their
No, it's
prestigious?
a smart move, so it won't
system.
happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Sony's
just keep
made pretty
peddling their-
smart moves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
except for PlayStation Plus and that whole
Yeah.
thing.
I don't know.
It's
I
been
mean,
pretty
but
mid.
But PlayStation Triple Plus was their contender to a Game Pass. I can't say it's been as successful maybe in the culture, but they are trying to get some things. Like I think Chia was free
Yeah.
with your PlayStation Plus purchase. Stray was also free. Well, asterisk
They
free.
have been the games that have been getting added to the service, not the new games, but like games that have been adding to the service are really strong games. They're really strong contenders. And for a publisher out there, like I know that there's rumors that a whole bunch of Atlas games are about to get like added again to Game Pass. For a publisher out there to be able to get on both of those deals is a great idea. That's great for you to get your game out, especially for games that kind of when you see the new sales begin to decline. Yeah, get a deal, get a huge boost of revenue from those old game purchases that you don't need to touch anything. You don't need to alter anything, and you can get a new boost of income from it from one of these deals.
Right. And if
Truly
even
benefits everyone.
even if 1% of the people who play it after it gets on that new, the Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, if even 1% of them are like, oh my God, why didn't I play this game before? I'm such a big fan now. In the future, I'm going to buy merch. I might buy the game. I might, go to an event that is related to this game in some way. Like, that's still a pretty big boost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to bring it all back to the merger or the acquisition, so to revisit, do we really think Call of Duty is going to be an Xbox exclusive within 10 years?
I don't think it would be to their advantage because, yes, I think Call of Duty as an exclusive would bring in money, but I don't think it would bring in the level of money that the microtransactions within the game on all platforms bring in. Because you've got that upfront. Cool, I've got that upfront $60, but if you can do that upfront $60 and maybe $20 a month or something from some people buying the new skins and things like that within the platform, I think you make significantly more money that way, and you really kind of shoot yourself in the foot not having it multi-platform because of that.
I mean, also if they continue the trend to make to make these newer games like $70 price points as well, there's definitely still healthy incentive to get it on the Xbox platform, but Microsoft would just be throwing money away. They'd have to do the math and think, well, if there's someone who is going to want to save the $60 and get it through Game Pass, they're going to need the $400-$500 machine that will counterweigh like 10 Call of Duty sales on a PlayStation, like 10, 11, 12. So it's like, do we think that we can get one person to buy Game Pass and a new Xbox? Or do we think that 11 people will pick up the new Call of Duty when it releases? And there's just got to be some finance nerd it's the easiest job in the world to just say, like, yeah, we should sell it everywhere we fucking can. Is Game On still around? What about the Ouya? Can we stream to an Ouya? Will that work?
Ouya, the home of
get mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I agree with you there, right? That no matter what, I think Microsoft will make more money keeping Call of Duty on other platforms because it still consistently breaks into the top 10 best-selling games every year. Every time it comes out in October or September, October, November, whenever it comes out in that window, it always immediately is like the number 1 or number 2 best-selling game of that weekend, right?
Yeah, so like the thing is, like, Activision-Blizzard in Q4 of 2020 made $1.3 billion from microtransactions, and 1.5 billion was a number that Call of Duty Mobile did at one point, just in microtransactions. So at the end of the day, the value of the platform is not that initial sale; it's the longevity and getting players to buy in.
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna keep releasing on this generation, but it's so hard to predict what things are gonna look like towards the end of this generation.
True.
because they're obviously putting a lot of effort into something like Game Pass. Because if it gets to a certain healthy point where they could be like, look, and sell it to people and to like parents, be like, you just get in this subscription. You don't have to do this big $70 upfront fee on top of the new console or whatever that might be in the future, and you're in already.
Mhm.
You're done. That's it. I think that's massive.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming from, where it's hard to predict, right? Because I think if we were doing this podcast when the PS4 and Xbox One just came out, right? PS4 would everyone would be predicting, oh, the Xbox One's going to dominate this generation because the 360 dominated the last generation, right?
Yeah.
And then by the end of that, the PS4 was actually the more dominant one. Even Call of Duty switched sides and was like, we're going to do all of our exclusives and PlayStation Advantage, right? So here we are now. I mean, I guess we're almost 3 years into a new console cycle, even though it doesn't really feel that way.
Still doesn't,
No, but who knows? I mean, by the end of this, it could be the Xbox is just the dominant,
Well, I mean,
gaming.
like, because I think some estimated figures, because they haven't put out official numbers for like console sales, neither Sony nor Microsoft, but like a guesstimate it was I don't know the hard numbers, but like percentage wise, it was like Sony or PlayStation 5 had sold like 50% more than Xbox, so it's not like it's double. And if we follow
last
those,
I heard was that it was double.
I don't think I could be wrong if we could look it up, but I remember it being more like market's probably something like 2/3 to 1/3 in terms of, or well, a little less than that is kind of what it's looking at. So it's not like it's hugely behind. It's definitely smaller,
right? But
it's not like it sound like the Wii U or something. Like it's not sound like shit.
It's not an Ouya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot like for a long time. Same with the PS5, you couldn't get it on shelves either. Like you couldn't find it anywhere. You had to get some crazy deal.
Right.
It was in the same boat for a very long time.
Exactly. And this isn't to say too that Call of Duty is the only real important contender in this acquisition, right?
King's the biggest part.
King's the big one. But also when it comes to this, potential monopoly kind of situation, I don't think King is necessarily talked about, only because it's on mobile, right? There isn't really as much of a discussion about like Android versus iPhone. Like that doesn't have the same weight as Xbox or
Not
PlayStation.
Anymore. It used to.
Yeah, used to. Not so much now, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be hard pressed to see Microsoft saying, okay, now we're only Android. Fuck iOS. Like, no, they're not going to do that, right? But there's also Blizzard part of it, right? I mean, Blizzard's ramping up to release Diablo 4 soon.
A bit of a rebound at the moment, yeah.
They are. And if Diablo 4, because it's looking like that's also going to be live service, if I remember, because there's a battle pass that's part of the initial
they do $70
purchase
and stuff,
yeah. So I mean, if Diablo 4 releases successfully, that's going to be another moneymaker. Not to mention Overwatch is also currently doing that same live service battle pass, buy the skins business model, right? Like,
I don't think people are as happy with Overwatch 2 though.
No, not as happy. But I remember when Overwatch 2 first came out, or I guess when Overwatch 1 first updated to Overwatch 2. A couple months after, didn't Microsoft say they had like 40 million players at one point who played Overwatch?
It's crazy.
Something like that. Yeah.
I mean, like it's a good point because Blizzard's kind of the king of
keeping
a fan base around forever. And now that there's been new modern ways to monetize those fan bases, like sky's the limit. I mean, people still play original StarCraft 2. Like a lot of people do.
Yeah. And I don't know as much about Diablo Immortal, like in terms of its success. I haven't heard it really talked about in a while. But
I'm sure it pulled microtransactions, and that's probably.
I'm sure.
I'm guessing the player base has dwindled significantly.
Right.
With Diablo 4 on the horizon, I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
Why invest the time if the new one's coming?
Right. And plus, Diablo has always kind of been like, it's a quote unquote core gaming experience. Like you're going to sit at your PC to play it. You're not going to like whip out your phone on the bus, do a dungeon or two or whatever.
Do a couple bail runs on the ride home.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if this is the UK, one of the big authorities that's looking at this, right? That's saying that they don't believe this would lead to a monopoly. That's a pretty big win for Microsoft right now. Yeah. So more likely to acquire.
Maybe, but it makes you. I don't know. I think with some it might make a little more hesitant for big companies because Activision's huge, but it's not like EA or something. Like that's a whole different level of stuff we're talking about when those come into play. Because there's not a lot. Like in terms of like what's EA is just such a bigger company. So, I don't know. I think with how much shit Sony stirred with this, whatever's next, if there is a next, is going to be so much bigger. I mean, I know what was easy about this was that Call of Duty is a lightning rod for everything, but it would be they could say, "Look, you guys let all that through, and now this on top of it? No fucking way! Are you kidding me? Whatever it would be, if it's one of the big ones." Like an EA and Ubisoft or Square Enix or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ubisoft is one of the ones where I could kind of see it being acquired in the next 5 years.
Oh, well, I mean, I definitely.
With their financial issues, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
And then there's been all like endless rumors about Sony trying to get Square Enix.
Yeah, or Capcom. I always hear it's like,
yeah,
oh, they're going to buy Capcom. They're going to buy Square Enix.
I mean, they're two Japanese companies and they're a Japanese company.
Right.
And they have a lot more history with Sony and the PlayStation console.
Yeah.
And no matter what, we're not going to hear about Sony purchasing anything until well and truly after all this Activision stuff goes through, because there's no way that Sony is going to be, nursing their paw, talking about how big and bad and mean Xbox is, and then like flip around and purchase a large company and immediately put in put in exclusivity on like all future game titles.
Right.
It would be really funny if this whole saga ends, the acquisition is completed, and then like 2 days later, Sony's like, "Yeah, we're buying Square now."
Yeah.
No fucking way with how much that Microsoft could just bring up Final Fantasy 16. Like how fucking big that's looking to be.
I'm sure that monstrous. Just knowing that Square Enix is Square Enix, they probably wouldn't even be able to get started half of the anti-competitive or monopoly bullshit that's going on.
Yeah.
Well, I think we also have to consider too, like how much bigger a company like Microsoft is compared to Sony. Like not just the gaming division. I'm talking like Azure and Microsoft Office, right? Like Microsoft is a huge company. They can afford to just drop 70 billion.
When you talk about Microsoft, it's like one of the largest companies in the world by magnitudes.
Yeah.
Like it gets talked about in the same breath as Apple and Google and Amazon. Like those are where it lives.
Right. I mean, and especially when like we know that in recent years it went from Xbox like being the beloved child of Microsoft, but not as important, and then is how much we've heard with like Phil Spencer getting like a seat at the table when like the big Microsoft matters get brought up and stuff. And it seems that there was definitely a twig that happened where it's like, okay, Microsoft like sees the direction that this is going. They put the right man at the helm, and they're willing to financially back that horse.
Yeah, and there was a lot of like uncertainty with Xbox when Nadella took over. Like everybody thought that his focus was going to be on the Azure and the business side, but he's also shown like a pretty big propensity to support Xbox, which I think is
he's
also
just a gamer like the rest of us.
Big CEO is just like
billionaire
us.
gamer like the rest of us.
But will he go on stage and play Smash with Hungrybox like Reggie?
One day, maybe this E3. Maybe we'll see Satya Nadella take the stage.
I don't know. I think this all sucks still. I wish the deal wasn't happening. I think it's stupid. I do not buy this is good for competition. No, it's not. It's one of the biggers getting bigger. Yeah. I would be just as against it if Sony was buying it, if EA was buying it, if anybody was buying it. I think it sucks. I think it ultimately leads to less competition. I think there's plenty of competition between Xbox and Sony and PlayStation at the moment. I don't think they need more firepower for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think what that makes me think about is with Xbox, right? That they've acquired so many studios in the past 10 years, right? Like
That's
Xbox
true.
Game Studios is an umbrella for like a ton of smaller studios underneath it. You know, and we're talking like from all sorts of genres, right? Like you've got people who made, fucking like Obsidian and In Exile, right? Like, nerdy ass RPGs.
Yeah.
But then, you have fucking the Forza
Forza.
people, right? Like, and now they're working on Fable. There's just a lot that Microsoft has. And we keep hearing the news of like acquisition, but we're not really.
I haven't seen a lot from it yet.
I still haven't been seeing much.
Yeah.
I think Call of Duty is just easy because it is probably the biggest non-Nintendo brand that you hear about the most. It's across TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Like
I think there's one game that would have changed the tune of the UK board there, or the EU board.
Radical Heights?
Fortnite?
Nope. If they said, all right, Microsoft now owns Grand Theft Auto 5, I'd be like,
that
oh
would have been a deal killer.
I'd be like, yeah, there's that. I'd be like, that's big enough to be like, no fucking way. GTA 6, Microsoft, Xbox only. Can you imagine that?
Can you realize it would cost them like probably twice what it costs to buy Activision-Blizzard
just for the one IP?
That would be insane. Like I can't. That number would be staggering.
That one, if anybody tries to acquire Take-Two, that will be the biggest battle of all time. Like,
yeah,
it'd be massive
for sure.
Yeah, the crazy, like they're publishing a lot. Like a lot of games are coming out. It's just they're not landing. In 2022, in 2022 there was As Dusk Falls, Forza Horizons 5, Hot Wheels, Grounded had its full release, Age of Empires 4, and Pentiment.
They do a lot more genre stuff, which I like.
Yeah,
a lot more double A.
Sony's definitely the blockbuster king.
Yeah,
but it's cool that they're doing the genre stuff at Microsoft.
Right, and that kind of fits their business model if you think about it, because Games Pass, right, is all about like I'm going to have access to everything. So I might not have bought Pentiment, but I have access to Pentiment, so I'll check it out.
You should buy Pentiment.
I haven't even touched it. I don't know how to read.
Pentiment.
I'm illiterate. But
they
with Sony,
that explains our features.
It does, yeah. Thank you. With Sony though, right? They have to build that one big blockbuster that appeals to as many people as possible because everyone has to pay the $70 ticket to get in.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's right. It's
regardless, it is a monstrous deal.
Yeah, and I think what Microsoft wants obviously is they don't really have the sure bets. They don't have the easy money. Like if you're gonna have Call of Duty, you're gonna be making money,
right?
Like it's a sure thing. Yep, we're gonna make roughly probably about this amount of money every year from this release, and that's reliable.
Yep.
On top of all the other stuff that Activision-Blizzard brings, obviously a bunch of constant, steady stream of money, which Microsoft doesn't really have any much of at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Since Halo failed.
So,
well, Halo may have failed, but you know what is
sad must they be about that too?
Right. Well, they'll have a new shooter soon.
Yeah, season 2 of the show will come out at some point, right? Too.
Oh, God.
That's as good as The Last of Us, isn't it?
Yeah, it's prestige television. Yeah.
But
they will Call of Duty soon, right? For sure, absolutely. And
Call of Duty TV show?
No, Microsoft will own Call of Duty soon, and with that'll be their new premier shooter that everyone will play, and it's going to be the home of Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Brought it back.
The famous military shooter character Shredder, who I think about all the time.
Why doesn't he just shoot the turtles? What's he fucking around with the?
His name's Shredder Shooter. He's got to live up to the name.
I mean, you can shred.
You can shred with bullets.
Yeah, it's true. I guess you could
make Swiss cheese of these fucking turtles.
Mm-hmm. They do have the shells, and they are
Turtle
ninjas,
soup.
I guess, and mutants.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Shredder is in Call of Duty now. We're just shifting over to a more focused story here about Call of Duty specifically. Just while we're talking about it and it being a big lightning rod for this acquisition story, right? And the reason I think we want to bring it up is that Fortnite is famously the game where you can play as Goku wearing Pickle Rick on your back while holding a unicorn gun of some kind to then grab All Might's superpower to punch someone into outer space unless that person has the Thanos gauntlet. It's just this mess of like a metaverse, if you will, of
One of the best sentences ever said.
thank you. And Call of Duty hasn't really done that too much. I think they had an Attack on Titan
They
event
did.
a couple months ago. I can't think of any other major crossover event type things, but now here we are with Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IP.
Yeah, Shredder's as big as like Thanos, right?
I think about them both a lot. Yeah.
They're purple.
Are they? I guess.
Does Shredder wear purple shit?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah, I
thinking
guess
of Skeletor?
No, I know Skeletor is. Shredder wears purple shit.
Does he?
I don't know.
Oh no,
got
yeah, I
purple
guess
cape.
he has a purple
Yeah,
cape.
purple cape.
Oh, just like Thanos. Yeah.
And then Shredder's
Very close
got
comparison.
some gauntlets. And they're
mhm.
the same.
Right. And
Per-
Shredder
perfect
famously tried to
analogs.
get the 6 gems.
Yeah, he's trying to
Cute.
collect the colored gems of red, orange, purple, blue.
What are the rest, Otton? What are the rest?
I was naming the colors of the turtles.
The Roy G. Biv, yeah.
And then April O'Neil's yellow. Just
Mhm.
saying.
Mm,
The turtles are the stones.
Oh, okay.
And
I see.
Rafiki is the I know it's not Rafiki. I'm just yeah.
But this is kind of weird to see, right? Because Call of Duty is always
Speaking of, sorry to
Oh, yeah?
derail it, but I'd rather
No,
see Rafiki than Shredder in Call of Duty. Can you imagine how cool that fucking be?
I would love that.
So much cooler.
But I think that's the interesting to me. The interesting thing about all this is that Fortnite kind of set the blueprint. It's one of the most successful live service shooting games out there.
I think you can just say games. One of the most
It's
successful
true.
games of all time.
It's one of the most successful games out there, and
Yeah.
arguably part of it is because they're doing all of these crossover events that are bringing people in, whether you want to play as Ariana Grande or fucking Indiana Jones, right?
John Cena.
John Wick.
Yeah, that's
We could-
one of the OGs, man.
Legit, we could probably write a feature that's like the top 10 Johns in Fortnite.
Probably.
There
Is
might
Ron
be enough.
McClane in there?
Maybe.
I think he is.
You'd have to put Mr. Banana in there.
Is his
Is he
name
John?
John?
Johnny Banana.
You're acting like we should know. You're surprised that we
I-
don't know the lore of Mr.
Yeah,
Banana.
a John is slang for a penis.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
I guess.
Yeah, see, because the
I
banana is
thought
the
about that.
penis.
Yeah.
But you didn't really see Call of Duty doing this much. But here we are, right? Like this is the second kind of big one. If I remember right too, isn't Overwatch still currently doing a One Punch Man event?
I think-
Either they're currently doing
yeah.
it or it just wrapped up.
Yeah.
And I mean,
So it's
we're also seeing this happen a whole bunch in shooters, but like we came from like Fall Guys as well.
Yeah.
Fall Guys
Such
was
a
doing
shit ton of it.
crossovers and play the game and beat the battle pass and get the skin for Sonic the Hedgehog years ago.
Yeah.
It's the-
I mean, it's definitely shown that it works with games, but part of it, I don't know why, it gives me this vibe of like some suit being like, you know what the Zoomers like? Crossovers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know why it's got that vibe because it's only one thing. It just does. It's kind of a limp-wristed fucking crossover
Mhm.
to start with.
Yeah. I think what stands out to me too here is that Fortnite is that when they do a crossover, it's not like your Fortnite character is cosplaying as
Yeah.
Aaron from Attack on Titan. You are just straight up Aaron from Attack on
Yeah,
Titan
there's just
doing
a million mechanics in one game.
doing dances and flossing, right? Like
Yeah.
you just are the character. Whereas here in Call of Duty, it looks more like it's just a military dude
Yeah.
cosplaying a
yeah.
Shredder.
Yeah.
Same with Overwatch.
It's just a skin.
Fucking Doomfist cosplaying as Saitama,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point because like Fortnite went so far as adding, with Goku, the Kami Yamama in there.
Mhm.
And they do
And
that
it is
with other-
Goku.
Yeah. Like Darth Vader is in there and shit. It's got his lightsaber.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
all kinds of shit.
Yeah, so like
What about
Fortnite's
the-
just going with the real, like it's the character, right?
Yeah.
where Fortnite has the advantage, not just in like all of the mechanics, but also the art style is so fitting to anything.
Yep.
Like, there's no way you're going to get a realistic looking Deku from My Hero Academia into Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That I think that like Shredder makes a whole bunch. Like, it's weird. You would almost look at Shredder and be like, why are they adding Shredder? Why aren't they adding any of the turtles? And it's like, well, that would mean that you would need to create new hitboxes and new models and potentially figure some mechanics out. It's like, oh no, like let's just put Shredder in because he will look like a military man, and that's it.
Yep.
That they're never going to be able to take it as far. I definitely like see what you're doing. I think what they're doing is fine.
If it gets too colorful, it becomes a problem. It's that's the struggle of kind of modern shooters, I guess, is you aim for these kind of darker tones or kind of more natural tones because of the environment and the realism. And once you start throwing in like super bright skins, it does make it a little easier to spot people, and it can be a competitive disadvantage.
It becomes like that image on the internet of like, you know, you playing a military game when your custom character is on the screen, and you've got like 3 fully decked out military dudes and then a guy dressed as a clown.
Yeah.
Like directly behind them, and it's just like, well, you're going to be limited in what you can and cannot do.
For sure. Well, while we're talking about shooters, should we talk about the next big one that's coming to the market soon? We got Counter-Strike 2. The first game Valve has made in 30 years. Counter-Strike 2.
Half-Life Alex.
Yeah,
Sure.
Half-Life Alex.
Yeah, no, I'm joking because
you
it's
son
Valve.
of a bitch! How dare you?
It's not on PSVR 2, so it's dead to me.
It's true.
Yeah. Yes.
Why did they not name it Count 2 Strike?
Count to Strike. Can you
that
speak
a
more on that?
counting game?
Same reason they didn't name it
things?
Fast 10-Year Seatbelts.
COUN 2 Strike. Count 2 Strike.
Now I
Like
want you
in
to
the same vein as like Fithreer.
Now, Stretch, I want you to think about it more, and just let us know if you still want to die on this hill.
Yeah, I think that's a great name. They should have stuck with it. Count 2 Strike.
Okay.
I couldn't disagree more. Could not.
Yeah,
I don't know if that player base can count. But...
Well, 2 is a pretty big number, yeah. I don't know. CS2 makes more sense to me, but hey, if you want to do a C2S kind of thing,
I think it is funny that it's called
C2S.
Counter-Strike 2 because we've got Counter-Strike, which is commonly 1.6 because that's where it ended.
Check Source, Counter-Strike 1.6.
Source, you got Condition 0.
Yep.
You got CSGO. So, I mean, I guess 2 does make sense if it's the second one.
And CSGO was the mobile game, right?
No.
I don't know what
That's
you're
a question
getting
for
at.
you.
No.
Pokemon Go.
As someone who's got way too many hours in it.
Yeah, that'd be a great game. Let me go around catching terrorists. Sweet.
Nice.
Instead of Pokemon gyms, you're breaking into like
a lot of people that play
safe houses.
Pokemon Go are terrorists. Let's be real.
Yeah. Yep. Counter-Strike 2, they showed off some gameplay. They showed off like here's like the maps we've redone and rebuilt. They showed off some tech. I
Not
don't
much
know.
is different. There's one big change that is actually humongous. Like I'm not going to discount the smoke change. Yeah, it changes the game dramatically. But other than that, it doesn't seem like there's a lot.
It's not like I don't think it's massively different. They're doing it on the new engine. The lighting and textures are a lot more kind of like realistic.
It looks a lot better for sure.
Yeah, it looks a lot better. I think smoke is definitely a game changer, but I think pixel by pixel, when it comes to the kind of the fundamental design of the maps, it's pretty much the same. I mean, from what I was seeing, all of the like Counter-Strike is known for its grenade throws, right? The cheeky smoke off the entire B site at I can't even remember the map at this point. And that hasn't changed at all. I was watching videos yesterday of people on the new maps like chucking the exact same smokes I used to chuck. But I think that there's some underlying the tick rate is higher. So network performance is not going to be quite as dependent on your connection. So I think it's going to probably level the field when it comes to like latency and stuff like that. That's the big challenge with shooters.
Right, and
The smoke grenade is a game changer. Like it's going to completely change the meta. And that meta hasn't changed since 2004.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I take that back, since like 2018 when they changed the spray patterns.
Yeah.
And isn't
Which is when I
the
quit.
like everything about the tick rate now is happening on the server side, right? So that way, like you
Correct.
can't like less likely to lag. Like you can't really blame lag anymore for
But
sucking.
you can't blame lag. You can't take advantage of lag, which is usually the most frustrating thing. Server side rendering. I don't know if it's rendering or whatever it's called. So it's more dependent on the server you're on more so than whoever is hosting the match, because the way CS was working, it was hosted by one person. And everybody was connecting to that person.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but that's how I remember it. But yeah, I mean, I played up until I think I hit Legendary Eagle at one point, which is like a couple ranks down from whatever the highest one is. I quit when the spray patterns changed, but like seeing the smoke stuff, like
It's pretty rad.
I want to come back immediately, because that's a complete tactical change that you can shoot through smokes and see through them, or chuck a grenade. So you chuck for people who don't know what we're talking about, you can now displace smoke. So you chuck a smoke nade down, it does its thing. It'll actually conform to spaces now instead of just being kind of a circle.
Right.
And if you chuck a frag grenade into the smoke grenade, it dissipates for a second, so you can see through it and then try and take people out. Bullets displace. It's crazy. It's so cool.
It'll change a lot, because because it was smoke was static before. It was largely like, okay, we have that obstacle in place, so we know it'll be here for X amount of time, and now you don't have that reliability anymore.
Right, like the enemy can do something to counterplay the smoke.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But one thing that I do think might come up, I've seen some people talk about it, is Counter-Strike. CSGO is pretty infamous for being able to run on like fucking anything. It can run on the lamest hardware out there, and it does it just fine. But on the I think that'll suck for people that might not have powerful hardware for like computer on the PC side and stuff. But when you get into the higher end things, though, like frame rate does matter a lot, and especially for the higher skill people. Like the difference between someone that's running at like 80 or 90 and someone that's running at like 150 is pretty ginormous. Like it makes a big competitive difference. I don't think it's going to be that big of a thing with Counter-Strike 2, because Source 2 is infamously like pretty easy on hardware. But like a lot of people saying the smoke stuff in particular, because the volumetric and stuff, that could definitely tank some stuff for people. So it'll be interesting to see what people learn about with that. Because while we are maybe losing the lag stuff, it's like, if we're getting a little more hardware pressure on things, that does weirdly change stuff for like people that don't know a lot about Counter-Strike or competitive stuff. Like it really is like minimal.
You have to have the best of the best to compete.
Yeah. Like little decimal points of stuff change a lot when you get up there. It's a very twitchy game. So like something that's just 0.2 of a second where you don't think it's going to be, or where you thought it was going to be, but it's not for whatever reason, is a big change.
Like when you see
that
those
millisecond is the difference between you winning an engagement and you losing it.
Probably to a lesser extent, but I wonder how the release of CS:GO will affect like the I know that the Korean term PC bang, but like the internet cafe scene.
Oh man,
because they could probably have a room of 50 machines all running minimal hardware, and this if Counter Strike does end up becoming like as large, bigger than Counter-Strike 1, or what it was called before, then will that mean, for them as a business overhead, it's just going to be like, fuck, like 3060s everywhere? And
I mean, usually PC bongs are one of the draws of them is that they have at least decent, if not pretty good hardware. So I think you're less likely to find like if you're going to a PC bong, you're going there for the premium gaming experience. So most of them do generally have pretty decent rigs. I can't confirm if all of them can run the volumetric fog stuff.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure they will.
Yeah,
I think that like I've seen a lot of people talking about it. Like I think that stuff we're really talking about fractions here, which for your general people that are going to be playing something like Counter-Strike is not going to. It's not going to change the way they interact with the game, probably for the most part, but it's for those higher level players, which is a big part of Counter-Strike's had one of the longest running like tournament scenes in gaming, and it's a big part of the culture of the
second only to the LCS for sure.
It's been around forever.
Yeah, like when I was in Korea, they there's a channel on TV, like you can just channel surf, and there's a channel that's dedicated to playing Counter-Strike, like streaming Counter-Strike tournaments. Yeah, and this was like
huge.
over 10 years
they fill
ago.
arenas. It's
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I can imagine, Counter-Strike 2 is probably going to do pretty well for the brand. Like you're probably going to get a huge influx of like maybe casual people who want to try it for the first time, but then
we already
it's
saw
already having an
CS:GO.
impact.
Yeah, CS:GO's got its newest highest concurrent players, right? Playing
1.5 million yesterday. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So people are ready. People are eager.
It's crazy.
Yeah, everybody's
Counter-Strike's
jumping back in.
One of the most popular games not talked about amongst the general gaming community. You don't hear about it much if you're not playing it.
It's the skill difference. If we're being honest, like
only hardcore
Counter-Strike takes
gamers.
a lot of precision and planning and thoughtfulness to how you play compared to something like Call of Duty where you can just sprint around and shoot people, which like the twitchiness of Call of Duty still matters, but they're two completely different.
Well, I think part of it is that you die and you sit around a while.
There's that too. Yeah.
And it's really just PC game for the most part.
So what we're saying here is that Counter-Strike needs a One Punch Man collaboration so people will talk about it more, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do some crazy shit. Like
it doesn't need it.
Glove skins. Like it's.
I wasn't saying it's not popular enough. It's just surprising with how popular it is that you don't really hear about it.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of it, though, right? Is that they're like Counter-Strike for the most part isn't something that's here's this event, here's this big update, right? It just kind of like
a consistent thing. You know what you're gonna get.
And
the people that play it, and they follow it fervently.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what else? A lot of people are going to play very fervently. I expect that Crash Team Rumble. I don't
understand.
It's coming.
What this game is.
It's a 4v4 live service Crash Bandicoot video game live service where you and your team collect a lot of Wumpa fruit to then deposit back at your base, and team with the most Wumpa fruit wins. But you have different actions and abilities, like to stop the enemy team. I wasn't asking for this.
Doing?
I did.
Is this
I
like
don't know.
the old PE games that you could play where everybody in the class would basically try and get as many things back to a basket as possible? But the difference is in this one, you could just beat the shit out of them.
I mean, you
just
could beat the shit out of kids as well. Yeah.
You don't get detention for it.
This is going to join a list. I need to start making this list of games that like you could tell right away that aren't going to work, but have a similar vibe to this. Something like Knockout City. It was like, oh, that's not going fucking anywhere. Know that immediately.
Which was a shame.
There's a bunch of games like that where this feels like it lives in that same category.
Lawbreakers.
I wouldn't put those in this category, but
yeah, Crash Team Rumble, because we'd heard rumors about it for so long, and people were really of the people who were looking forward to it, were kind of hoping that it would shake out to be something more similar to like Crash Bash, which is a Mario Party-esque Crash Bandicoot game that doesn't have the board, just has the mini games. It came out on PlayStation 1. It was fun, but to see this being so blatantly trend chasing It feels like it looked at every other competitive 4v4 game, and then it looked at Splatoon's and thought, okay, Splatoon has kind of shifted the finish line a bit to make it about coloring spaces. What do we have? Collectibles. Let's collect stuff. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, it's like a competitive collectible game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's such a stupid idea. There's no way to see it work. It's bizarre.
I mean, looking at the pricing model for it already, I think it's a lot of red flags to me. So it's $30 to buy the game, and when you buy it, you get access to the season 1 battle pass, right? Or you can spend $40 on the deluxe edition, which also gets you the season 2 battle pass. So they're basically promising you content that is like before you can even see what the game is like in your own hands, right? They're saying buy our season 2 battle pass with the $40 purchase, which just seems like over promising, under delivering,
Crazy thing is, this is 100% not only going to get released and supported, it's going to get supported for a long amount of time. Because Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which was the last Crash game that released, which was a remake of the first Crash Team Racing, the game starts with 8 playable characters. No one heard about it. It was such small news, but they just consistently kept releasing new seasons, new battle passes, new characters. Nitro Fuel ended up with 56 playable characters that included every single racer from prior Crash Bandicoot racing games, and also characters who have never been part of Crash Bandicoot racing games like Spyro. That just you heard nothing at all, but there's now 56 characters in this primarily single player adventure racing game.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is in 2 years' time, we're going to hear about the 56 characters in Crash Team Rumble.
Probably. The fact that this racing game that people enjoyed but was not a live service game ended up getting the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate everyone is here treatment.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if this time next year Crash Team Rumble was still alive and had probably every single Crash Bandicoot main character, including some enemies. We're gonna have default generic enemies, and they will be in there.
So we might see a Piranha Plant level of enemy show up as a playable character in this.
I'm picturing the hopping green frill neck lizard guys from the first Crash Bandicoot game. I can see them being in it.
This has the vibe of how when 3D platformers were kind of everybody's all right, we're kind of over these. There's too many of these fucking things coming out. And this is a long time ago. For all you Zoomers out there, you know what I'm talking about. But remember how they tried to jazz them up with just mini games all the time? Hey, there's fucking hockey now in this platformer and stuff like that. This
Spyro
feels
3
like
is
a
an
mode.
incredible game. Fuck you.
It feels like a mode that is something that someone would have an idea like that, or those weird and Mario Kart's got those weird other modes like battle modes and stuff. It's got a vibe like that. Oh, here's this little mini game you can fuck around with instead of here's a whole game. With this stupid fucking idea.
Yeah. I can't say I am interested in this one. And if you watch the trailer for it, Otton and I watched it earlier, and we were both I don't know what you do in this game.
I still don't really understand it. I get that you're running around and stuff. Yeah, the trailer, it's not a good trailer.
Yeah, but I guess if we are curious, there is going to be a closed beta for April 20th through the 24th. But if you pre-order the game, or you can wait until the game fully releases on June 20th, what is that, 2 weeks after Diablo 4, 2 days before Final Fantasy 16?
May is
just
not
after
the
E3.
month of releasing games, y'all.
June, yeah.
May and June.
Just give me another single player Crash Bandicoot game. Let's forget the PS2 generation happened. Follow it on directly from 3. Let's just get a new
all
standard.
semi-popular IPs must be made into live service.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just that's the way of the world.
And we saw how it went with
Yeah. We got Crash 4.
That's
It's
right.
about
Yeah,
playing.
I said that and I had immediately forgotten that we did also get Crash 4.
Yeah.
So you got what you wanted
Crash
and you
5.
forgot about it.
Yeah, but I want more of that. More of those things, please.
Well, they gave you what you wanted, and now they want to fuck you over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They give you the good stuff like a drug dealer. They give you the good stuff, and now they want
That's
to
true.
keep you,
Yeah, that's
string you
true.
along with the shitty stuff.
Yeah, the first hit's not free but good.
That's
and
right.
then after that it sucks.
That's
You
how
guys
drugs
not
work.
have phones?
You think is Crash Team Racing on phones? Or Team Rumble?
I
Crash Team
think there's
Rumble?
a mobile something that's related
I don't
to
know.
Crash.
Yeah, there's
I
an
can't
endless
remember.
runner.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's my favorite kind of Crash Bandicoot experience, an
Yeah.
endless runner.
Mario couldn't make that work.
What? He did.
I know they have a game, but it sucks.
Okay.
I know there's a
It's not
game.
good.
I just said they couldn't make it work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to talk about a concert I went to last night. I went to check out the A New World, that Final Fantasy orchestra thing.
Mhm.
They're doing this little tour called an intimate music from Final Fantasy to celebrate the 35th anniversary. So I went to that last night, courtesy of some lovely PR people who gave us tickets, which was very nice of them. And it was kind of neat being in a little auditorium setting with a lot of other people who want to listen to Final Fantasy music, because it's been around 35 years, and Final Fantasy just kind of has this connection to the music that a lot of other series kind of don't. I mean, there's theater rhythm games, right, that are just all about the music, but even then, you play a song from a Final Fantasy game and it takes someone right back to their their memories of
Not
it.
only that, but it's like if someone knows the name of one music composer in gaming, it's probably
Nobuo Uematsu.
Yeah. I think that's probably the one guy that they know.
Right. Or maybe like Koji Kondo for Legend of Zelda.
Maybe. But
yeah.
Uematsu gets talked about a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he gets yeah. And he wasn't there. Of course, this was in Seattle. But the conductor Eric Roth, who I think has been doing this since A New World started in 2014, he's a very fun person to watch conduct.
Yeah.
Because conductor, they have their back to you, right? Because they're basically the timekeeper for the whole orchestra. But he like conducts with his whole body, like he's bobbing up and down, he's dancing, he plays a slide whistle at one point.
It's perfect.
There's one song from Final Fantasy 13, Sarah's theme, that has like a vocal melody to it, and he just sings it while conducting the band, which is kind of
that's really cool.
Awesome.
yeah, it was interesting. But I think there's just something kind of cool about how, and this is my first time going to a concert about specifically about video game music, where it's just music from games we've played. But it's interesting to be in a room like that with people with other people who get as excited as you do. And it's not just like, oh, I heard that song on the radio and really love it, but I remember when I was fighting Sin in Final Fantasy X, and we were all there. We all had that experience, and and that's a culmination of hours of playing the game, right? In the past 20 years, and that kind of feeling, it's something I've never felt before, and it's something I think I would really recommend if you live in an area where you can get to one of these kind of concerts. I think it's a very cool and unique experience that you won't really get with other, if you go to like a pop musician's concert or a rock concert, like those are cool too. It's just a different kind of like shared feeling than like a Final Fantasy concert in a way.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because like if you think about most music with people, like if you think of any album, whatever it might be, it's whatever they're going on in their lives at that moment is what they remember.
Yeah,
and with games, like you're saying,
my
you remember those specific gaming moments, and everybody having that shared memory that is more or less the same. That is a very unique. I didn't thought about that.
Yeah, because everyone, it's like, oh, that was my breakup song, but it might have a certain quality to it where like other people, it could have been other people's breakup song too, or something like that, right?
Yeah, it is a unique experience. I've been to a couple Zelda concerts, Final Fantasy concert, and there's just kind of this vibe to it where everybody's excited to be there, and you just kind of feel it.
Mhm.
And even the people playing the music, I think, have a certain level of passion towards it as well.
For
So
sure.
it's not just shared necessarily with the audience, but also with the people doing the music as well.
Yeah. Stretch, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of on the similar veins. You're just like, yeah, everyone knows that, like, hey, this is the song that plays when you boot up Final Fantasy X. But like, whether someone was a kid booting it up for the first time late at night after getting off shift from a crap day at work versus someone who is in their 40s already playing it, from the comfort of home, like, there's so many different ways that, like, it still has that emotional tie-in for, like, where were you when you heard this.
Yeah.
But it does give that common experience as well, and that common struggle that everyone took to get there. Like, the first time you hear To Xanarkand at the beginning of the game, you don't know who any of these characters are. They're in some weird place with twinkly lights, and then it like flashes back to Xanarkand. But then by the time you get back to that rest point at the end of the game, even in those 2 times you hear the music, everything is different.
Yeah. You've heard Titus laugh.
Don't start this. My God.
Everybody stumbles sometimes. Not everybody's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Xanarkand, actually, I think what I found very funny is, at concerts, right? Everyone's going to cheer, clap, etc. Right.
Mhm.
And when you think of like a pop, concert or rock concert, when the band's like, okay, now we're gonna play our hit song. It's the final song, right? It's the hit song, the one hit that everyone knows, right? And then when they announce it, everyone goes fucking wild. It was that same energy when the conductor was like, and now it's time to play Xanarkand, and everyone cheered for it. But then it's like, if you know that song, the energy immediately after the cheers is like, oh, this is depressing.
Was that
and
the song
sad.
that got the biggest like reaction?
It was that, and all he said was, and now it's time for a selection from Final Fantasy VII. That also got a big cheer.
Mhm.
And they played, and they played One Winged Angel, which was
I figured if they're gonna do one, I figured that'd be the one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, contrast
Ares
that with
Themes
Xanarkand.
is also a big one.
Very different.
Yeah.
Like, oh, final boss music. Okay. Oh, he transformed. Okay. Oh shit, the lyrics are in Latin. We're fucked, boys.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a cool vibe. They ended it. There were like 2 encores. They had one where the solo guitarist played just the theme from Final Fantasy, like the one that has been from the first game that you still hear throughout.
Mhm.
The Chocobo theme.
And they ended it with the Chocobo theme. Well, they did actually. Yeah, they ended it with that. That's where. The first one was the actual theme from Final Fantasy, and then the Chocobo theme.
What an upbeat way to end it.
Yeah,
is
and
that the
was
one that had the slide whistle?
It was the one with the slide whistle, but he was doing a slide whistle solo, like actually playing music with it instead of just doing like the one way up or down. So I thought was kind of interesting to see. And the pianist had like a little rubber ducky that he would squeak as part of the song. It was fantastic.
Making me like, it would be super weird to be, I don't know why, for the Chocobo song, to hear that. I don't know, that's got to be such a weird thing to watch a bunch of people perform it.
It was weird.
It's such a funky song. Like,
yeah. Especially when you look at it too. So if you just like saw a picture of the concert, it looks very, orchestral. It's very regal. You got violinist, cello, double bass, drum set in the back, piano, like it looks very serious, quote unquote.
Yep.
And then they play the Chocobo theme.
Yeah, it's just in that kind of setting because like, oh, this is like we're at the opera, and now here comes the Chocobo. Nessun Dorma playing to the Chocobo theme.
Yes.
Like, video game music is one of those things that a lot of people, especially like when it's background music, there is an art to making background music. People don't understand. Like, I need something that sits in the background, doesn't make any obscure silences, that is repeatable, and that is not going to get fucking annoying after hearing it for 10 hours. And then to make like the big instrumental pieces as well. It's been really cool seeing this concert, Kingdom Hearts concerts, Pokemon concerts, the Zelda concerts that go around. that people are appreciating, and that, you know, as they get into their 40s and 50s and stuff, or even younger, but just like that, it's an option. Video games have matured to the point that it's not every video game soundtrack is Crush 40 screaming about rolling around at the speed of sound.
Right. Although I do
just
wish every video game music concert was that.
That's how all Sonic's soundtrack should be.
But that people like can go and appreciate what is, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, someone would be like, why the fuck are you going to a concert about an SNES game that you played?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there was one where they played a song from, which one came out in 1991? Was that Final Fantasy 2 or 4? I forget. But when they played a song from that game, the composer then turned around to the audience and asked, like, so how many of you actually remember playing this in 1991? You know, like that. It's fun little banter. But I think that's what made it interesting too, in that, you know, you were talking about this earlier, Otton, about how it's like, it feels like the opera. Like, you know, it's very regal in a way, like, because it was at Benaroya Hall here in Seattle, which is the quote home of the Seattle Symphony. You know, it's very fancy vibes. And what was interesting is the audience was this weird mix of, like, there were some people who did dress up for the opera, you know, like they were nice, like they looked nice, like suit and tie, like elegant dresses,
and like
but then you had a lot of people, most of them were just casual, you know, jeans and a hoodie or something along those lines. And then you have the cosplayers.
Yes, cosplayers. Tell me what they were wearing.
I don't know enough about Final Fantasy 14 to confirm.
Useless.
It was mostly Final Fantasy 14 cosplays of some kind.
Oh, that's cool. Everyone's OC. So the one that came out in 91 was the American release of Final Fantasy 2, which was actually Final Fantasy 4.
Okay, so I was kind of right.
Yeah,
sort of. So yeah, it was just weird seeing, like, you know, someone dressed to the nines, dressed to, you know, fucking Final Fantasy, and then just cash, you know, just that whole mix. You know, it's an interesting vibe for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They're playing, I think, this weekend in Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh?
I want to say Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pennsylvania, sorry.
Pittsburgh, right? Yep.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So if you're in that area, you don't have a ticket, and you are curious, check it out. It may or may not be sold out, but you know.
Also, kind of cool. They're going to be in Australia in July. So if there are any Australian listeners, can check them out there.
Yeah, hell yeah. Otton, you've been playing The Last Spell. You talked about it before on the show, and here we are.
Long-time listeners will remember.
Yes.
Me talking about The Last Spell.
This is not The Last Spell.
Whenever it was, last year sometime. It is now released fully. It was in early access when I talked about it. It was in early access for quite a while. I got a ton of support, but I guess it's a roguelite that's like, imagine, it's harder to describe. It matches up a lot of stuff really well, but it's like, it'd be one of those, like, if you were to use every buzzword, it'd be like a 30-word long sentence to describe kind of a game. But it's a roguelike game where you have, where you're defending a town in the center that's being swarmed by monsters of some kind. And it's turn-based, where you have a phase where you're building up the town, which can do stuff like build up your production of resources that you need to build more defenses or build more buildings that provide more benefits or things for you. And then there's a deployment phase where you have your 4 heroes, or you start with 3 and you can get more over the course of a run. It'll be new heroes every time that each have their own traits. Like some, like I think one's like this person's a coward, so they have less health and less movement and stuff like that will be attributed to them. So some might be more naturally suited for different gear that you might pick up, because your abilities that you have are all attached to the weapons that you use. So like someone that wields a sword can do vastly different things from someone that has an axe in their hand, and they have their own benefits and situations that they work out in. But when it gets to a phase at night, you have to protect the town, and you have the walls that surround it that you can situate heroes at. It's a grid-based tactical game where kind of the name of the game is like all your heroes go first and then they'll move and then you could get hit or your walls get hit or whatever. And the name of the game is like kill as many as possible, as efficiently as possible. So it's not like a Fire Emblem or that kind of tactics game. It's got an interesting vibe to it. Like you have to try to figure out, because you have only a certain number of moves per night per hero that you could do, and like if you aren't efficient enough, you are going to just get fucked because you didn't kill enough, or whatever it might be, or you positioned yourself wrong and let them into the town. Because if you let them in the town, they can destroy important buildings, and there's like a certain like terror level within the town. If you let stuff in, they won't reward you as much, because at the end of every night, if you survive, they're like, hey, here's a bunch of material and gold that you can use to buy items or buildings and defenses. And if you let a bunch of shit get destroyed, they're like, fuck you, man, you need to do a better job. It's kind of backwards thinking. You think like, oh my god, give them everything, save us.
Yeah,
but that's not how it works. They're stingy, these villagers. But yeah, it really hits a nerve. Like it's just I don't know. Like it was one run of it might take you 7 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, because it gets progressively, every turn gets progressively longer because there's more shit you have to deal with.
Right. Well, so if it's a roguelite, right? So it's like when the town dies, that's the end of the run, right?
Yep.
So let's say you do a run. What's different about the next run because of your first?
There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, there's essentially like an achievement system. Where you do certain things in the game, and like let's say you used enough of swords, so you've unlocked this set of swords that you could potentially get on future runs, kind of thing. Or you've recruited this many heroes because you can build an inn, and that's how you get more heroes to use during a run. And you do a certain number of those, and it unlocks something for you in the game. On the flip side, you're also getting a currency that allows you to unlock things like permanent health buffs for all of your heroes, experience gain stuff, new weapon types, new building types, all that kind of stuff. So that's really the stuff that stays with you as you move forward. And you unlock different modifiers that you can put on your runs, and you get to choose and swap those out as you see fit. And like you have a certain like 5 points, let's say, that you can use. Some might cost 2, some cost 1. Like you have to fit them in. And I've been playing a lot, but I think there's multiple levels, and each one has its own challenge. Like a boss at the end, and it's vastly different layout and different difficulties to figure out. And I think you get you can add more modifiers and stuff for later ones, because it could be a bigger level. I don't know. Like there's a lot to it. It's a big game.
Okay. So what would you say is, because when you talked about it, over a year ago, right? That was still early access. What's the big draw now that it's 1.0? I mean, obviously it's a finished.
The big change is they really tuned the progression and the difficulty, because before you would just get wrecked so quickly because you didn't have that much going for you. And another thing that they tuned a lot better is the starting weapons, because before you could get something, get like a staff or something that isn't all that effective at a lower level, and so you're like, well, I guess I'm fucked with this guy for a bit, because you get stuck with what you roll with because you don't have the resources to change what they're using and that kind of thing. But I think that's the biggest tuning that they did.
Is there like a story element or like an actual end game, or is it just like endless and you just keep leveling?
There is. I don't remember. I haven't been paying attention to it, to be honest with you. So I don't know what it is. Because there's those 2 things that unlock permanent things that carry over into runs. One's that achievement thing, and one's that currency. And they're 2 different gods. One's light and one's dark. That's all I can tell you. I do not know why they're there. And when they come up, I'm a story guy, but on this game, I don't know why. I'm just like fucking click, go through all this dialogue, get me to the next unlock thing. Let's fucking get out. Let's get back to the thing. So it could be amazing. I have no idea. It's not that I engaged with it and was like, ew, It's just I literally haven't tried
Never
anything.
engaged.
I haven't
It
read a thing.
could be as good as Pentiment.
Could
you're
be.
just
I have no
refusing
idea.
to acknowledge it.
Usually, this is the perfect game that, like, when I've been wanting to just not think about stuff, or I watch something else, or listen to something else. It's
Kind of a
very
good
good at that
podcast
because
game.
it's very moment to moment. You're making one decision, and then the next decision, and the next decision in a row. You don't have a lot of stuff you're juggling at once necessarily that you're having to keep track of in the moment. There's a lot of stuff to keep in mind, but you're making one decision after another after considering things. Which is a very different kind of game, if you know what I mean. It's like it's like a Civilization versus something like fucking, I don't know, Total War, where there's just it's way more going on.
Right.
So what you're saying
one
is that
moment.
people should be playing this while listening to our podcast.
Exactly, it's perfect for listening to this.
You should be playing it right now.
You could listen to me describe the game while you're playing the game.
That's immersion.
That's what it is. That's like going to the concert for the Final Fantasy games.
Exactly.
Same
We,
thing.
in a way, we're the concert for
Exactly.
the last spell.
We're a concert of.
I'd like a refund, please. I didn't pay anything, but I feel like I'm
That's true,
entitled
yeah.
to a refund.
How your choice to poorly manage your time is your problem. We cannot refund time, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. Well, that's the last spell out now,
a great
1.0 on Steam, right? PC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's out on anything. I think it's just a Steam game. I
Gotcha.
could be wrong, but it's a great game. It's not super expensive. If you are a tech person, or like if you like something like They Are Billions and that kind of thing, it's got a similar vibe to that, but it's not RTS-y like that is, or tower defense-y kind of thing. That's what its unique thing is. It's melded that tactical or tactics-based gameplay, the grid-based gameplay, to it. That's pretty unique. I don't think there's anything else like it that I mean, I'm sure there's probably something, but I haven't seen it.
Right.
There's not a lot of them, we'll say, but
Right.
it scratches. It's a weird mix of like a tower defense / tactics game that works really well.
Hell yeah. Well, I think that is a wrap on today's episode of the TechRaptor podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening on. Stretch, you've got a big smile. What's happening on your end?
As you know, you can check out all of the latest news and reviews over at techraptor.net/home.
Right. TechRaptor.net/home.
Right.
Rut's been having a lot of fun auditing our website this week.
Or just click the link tree in the description below. You won't even have to think about what a URL is.
Or
You
just go to
tap it.
Google and type in tech space raptor, and we might not come up.
Turn off safe
We
search
should
too
come
for
up.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate you all.
And hey, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about the whole Microsoft acquisition of Activision-Blizzard? Now that a big authority at the UK is saying, hey, this can go forward. Who knows what will be next? So we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, either on YouTube or on our website, techraptor.net/home. We will be back next week with more of this show, and we will see you then. Bye.